And welcome to the Leadership Insight Group webinar. Again, we've picked on the topic of fear in the business, and the title was emphasized again from us both, all three of us talking about what if fear was not a factor in your business. And we covered it last time in our previous webinar, and we looked at it in a different perspective. And this time we're actually looking more at the business leaders and CEOs and business owners, etc., who many of them think that they're alone in their own fears, but they're not actually alone. So I've brought along again Bart Loos and Harriët Andriessen, my colleagues from the Leadership Insight Group, for us to discuss about this topic. So the question would be, Harriet and Bart, what do you think gets in their way as a business owner? We know there's the fear, but what's could be getting in their way on that? I'd like your points on that.
Well, I think when we talk about fear, most thoughts go to fear of failure, something going wrong, something being difficult, etc. But there's another point that I see quite regularly in my practice, especially people who are dealing with some issue in work or want to start something new, they want to develop a new idea, etc. And also a lot of times it's not so much the fear of failure, but the fear of success. For quite a few of them, because very often we are so used to thinking of ourselves in terms of people who are not successful, not deserving to be successful, that we're not clever enough, we're not competent enough, all of that, quite a bit of negative thinking. And for a number of people, the idea of being successful could almost be threatening, in the sense that if you have this idea about yourself and it feels like this is who you are, when suddenly you become successful and it's all going your way and it's brilliant and your career is thriving or your business is booming, for some people it can be destabilizing because they have to start looking at themselves in a different way, not as this person who's not able to do anything, but as somebody who's actually able to do something and successful at it. And so they find themselves in a totally new territory, which is not familiar to them. Because in the upbringing and many places in life, we're just always told what is wrong, what is bad, what we should change. And we're not celebrated so much for our successes. And so if you have success, to celebrate yourself and to really have the benefit from it and use it as a resource, that can be very uncomfortable. And I don't know if either of you have found this in your work, but I think that fear of success can also be a factor holding people back.
Yeah, before Bart comes in, what I've got from understanding is and dealing with the clients that I have in business, that fear, it is actually a strength. And for me, if they can turn that around and actually be more curious about it, and to look at it in a different way. Sorry, my cats are just going mad here on the sofa. So there you go. It's natural. It's virtual. We're here. We're in the office and we're at home, etc. So, but that curiosity, it's a thing that if you can turn it around to be curious instead of being fearful about it and confront it, as you said, Harriet, it's inside. It's inside. It's not the outside that's working on it. It's the inside. And looking at it from the inside, what is it? What is that feeling that's bringing up? What is it about? What's it just telling me? And it's sharing us something about it. So I'm going to pass over to Bart before my cat's go mad on the sofa here. So I'll pass over to Bart for a few seconds.
Okay.
I think you both said a couple of great things. It's about the fear of success, or the fear for, I would call it the fear for the unknown. Yes. If you make a progression to where you want to go, it's mostly like a place where if you're progressing, if a place where you haven't been before, So it's gonna be new, and we don't like different. We don't like. It's a bit. We're distracted by. Well, let me rephrase that. We're great at. We human beings are great at creating problems that are not there. So we're trying to envision what can go wrong or can go in a direction that we don't like, even if we deep down know that the things that we think up rarely manifest exactly how we thought them up. So it's like a certain loop that we get into that keeps us a bit stalling, and that's more of an excuse for not moving or letting ourselves stop or get off track. That said, the solution that Richard offered by turning your attention in a different direction is instead of looking at the fear, which with all kind of reasons that you imagine that things can go wrong, or you can which is mostly an internal process. It's looking, you're imagining things, but it happens here in your system, in your body. And even though you're looking at all things out there that can go wrong, the experience is very in your system. And it's that focus on the experience in your system that distracts you, and the stories and the images and give you an excuse to move, to not notice that directly in your system. The solution that Richard offered is a good one, because it turns your unconscious focus of your system towards something that you can be curious about. And curious is more neutral state of mind, rather than curious is like an open state of mind. It's not like that closed thing that happens when you're in a fear state, or when you're uncertainty, my doubt, but fear is even more cramped up state of mind. Yes. And curiosity opens that up a bit. So I think you can. It's a bit of a coping strategies to learn to deal with the fears that are arising in your system. But good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And that curiosity is like a blanket. It just opens up and gives us something to look into and to explore, because we are explorers and we're wanting to explore. Yes. And to just see something new just for that second takes us away from that fear.
Yes, absolutely.
What would be...
It's a bit of a state of mind that many of us learn to look at. Some see the glass half full, others see the glass half empty, right? But neither of them are factual true. So it's not so much about seeing the world more positive or more. It's I think it's even more helpful what you suggest. It's just taking us even a step back, where it doesn't really matter to you that the glass is half empty or half full. Of course, it's going to matter to you and the organization that you get the results that you want to envision, right?
Yes.
But you can only be clear about that when you personally, you don't feel like your life is at stake. depending on the results that are getting. And the thing is that we, by mixing up, by getting involved, by being passionate about the business, we also get our own identity in that. And that's where we get like, it's an energy drain to get stuck in there. And if that's looking at fear and seeing the world a bit dark or a bit scary, then it doesn't help you to avoid the bad things. It rather stalls you to embrace the good things.
Yes, but I'm also thinking, I'm just watching a series, one by Netflix and one on National Geographic about the planet, and the series by David Attenborough about life on the planet and how it's being threatened. But in particular, what you see there is the evolutionary influence of fear, or of being very careful, because originally we all come from surroundings that were pretty dangerous for our lives. And I think there's still quite a bit of that is in our programming, in the older part of our brain. So we are, I think, by biology or by evolution, a bit programmed to look for where can things go wrong, because it used to be really dangerous. And at the same time, being more open to things and to discover, that is also something that we've always done. Starting basically, I think, originally from Africa, and the human species going all over the planet with whatever means are completely a mystery, because how they managed to get from Africa to America a long time ago is a miracle. But it does show that there's a very strong motivation for new things and discovery as well. And so I think it's interesting to see that you have these two elements, and it's important to try and keep an eye on the discovery side, while not looking away from danger, but not being eaten up by it either, not being completely programmed by it. But it asks a lot of awareness. It asks really thinking, where am I? What am I doing? And what are the drivers? What is pushing me here to go this way or that?
Mm-hmm. It's good to be aware of that we are like, we're almost wired to be a problem seeker.
We are, yes.
But we can escape that wiring, or we can mature out of that wiring, because that's stalling us, and become more of a focused solution finder, if that's helpful for you. For me personally, which is a different position than just those two. Me personally, I like to be in neither of those two, blocked in to those two states. But I can see that for when you need to get things done in a business moving forward, being able to shift from the seeing problems everywhere to being focused on, this is the path forward, and we're gonna take the steps forward, and seeing the opportunities, seeing the possibilities, is a great shift. And it's a shift that I think especially leaders need to, and starting leaders need to be able to embrace, and it sets them apart from the pack, so to say, or the capacity to lead is that being able to get into that vision and out of problem-seeking habit that most all of us have. And the seeking for the problem-seeking habit comes with seeking constantly seeking the environment for safety spots to be able to hide. It's like, maybe I used that metaphor last time or one of the previous talks, but we're like those little birds picking food, and they don't do that picking food. No, they pick a seed and then they look up for danger, and we're just like that.
Yes.
We're always looking for danger, and that's the old wiring that you've been talking about, Harriet.
Yes.
But we can outgrow that if we have noticed that, and you know that it might appear in your relationships, it might appear in the way you lead people, in how you talk to your board, how you communicate with your team, all that. Seeing problems, seeing danger, seeing agendas. Sure, there are agendas. You have to be aware of the agendas to manage, but seeing around an agenda around every corner, that's not going to help you. So you got to be. It's that moving into the curiosity state is one thing. It's like it helps your leadership presence as well. It helps you to be to relax, but that's because you find that's only going to happen if you find calm and equanimity inside, and are not depending on all the pieces fitting right together. Because you can have equanimity without all the pieces being in place, and being curious helps that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it kind of ties in for what we've been saying in the description here about how the mind plays with us. As you were saying, the mind, and it's all separated in different areas. And what Harriet highlighted was the rectinal brain, which was there millions of years ago. And it does give us that flight and stance and do we stay or do we go kind of approach. But as you say, about that rewiring is about the understanding of how the thoughts and then patterns that it's created for us. And understanding that it's also the limiting beliefs behind it all. So there's them three areas that kind of, if you get to understand that, you can actually change your belief and your understanding and your thought about it into a new picture and a new understanding. It makes a difference, especially for business, in making a decision, especially for running projects, especially for making a decision about who to hire or not. Do you actually go with your gut feelings, or do you use your brain to pick it out and say, oh, that's who I go with? You know, there's so many different areas that a fear factor can come in, and the interpretation of fear is going to be different from everyone. That's the wonderful thing about it. No one has the same understanding about fear. You've got those who can hang off a cliff and have no fear, but they'll have a different type of fear relating to something else, which for other people will be like, yeah, I do that all the time. It's not a problem.
Oh, yeah. I got a good example of that. Totally unrelated to business, but it might fit. 5-6 years ago, I was in hospital for leukemia, and the thing that got under my skin was not leukemia or dying from leukemia or being or getting chemo and all that, but little things like someone else moving into the room without being communicated. Those things that are really not important at all, but that got me going crazy for like half an hour or something. I don't do long crazy, but anyway. But for other people, it's like getting cancer totally overwhelms them, and the fear of dying totally creeps them. So it's like you said, Richard, totally different for everyone. But the fun thing, and the fun thing is that when you realize that it doesn't matter what gets you, the story is as big. In my mind, the story of someone moving in next to me without having been communicated by the medical staff was as big for me as dying from cancer for someone else's. And that's the moment you make the, it's like we have this expression in Dutch. I'm not sure if it's also one in English. We're making out of a mouse an elephant, or a mosquito an elephant, but the way around happens as well in business. An elephant might be made up a tiny mouse, and that's when you're like avoiding problems or avoiding issues. And so it's not to take back to get back to the example of fear in business. We can ignore fear where it might be a great signal for you to say, "Oh, wait, stop." Because if I wouldn't have fear standing on that cliff, I would kill myself. Where the professional skydiver has maybe the same amount of fear going, but he can channel and see clearly through. But if I have that same amount, a little bit, that might be enough to just kill myself, because I might be thinking, yeah, I can do this. So it's like not being, what I'm trying to say is we can learn to not being fooled by our emotions, and they can go anyway. They can tell you a dark picture, and they can tell you a beautiful picture. And neither are necessarily helpful or truthful. So it's not only that fear might get in your way, also being optimistic about something that that might be pointing the other way, might keep you leading and pushing forward to get somewhere. And so a bit of learning to be aware of your own system, of your own fear, of your own emotions, of what your emotional system is telling you and not telling you, and is helpful in my experience.
Yes, I agree. Certainly, I think it is, as there is a many risk in seeing too much danger as in not seeing enough, because as you say, there are sometimes elephants in the room that you really need to know.
That we ignore, that are so complex that we just I see on the on the decision side, leaders are often stall things because they have sort of become complex in their mind and they want to have a simple answer. So is that bit of fear and overwhelmed by the data and not sure and not really knowing what direction to go, that makes them often procrastinate making that decision, which is not so helpful. That's again being distracted by or rather disconnected from your own equanimity, and not being able to see things clearly. Because you can have all the data in the world, but if you are not clear-minded, then the decision will not be as good as it could be. Both data and clear-minded thinking are necessary to make great decisions in leadership.
Yeah, I think it relates to the fact that I think I've heard of this before. The strategy is equaling the data input, the data that you receive, and the clarity that you have in that moment. And I think you're right. If you say that, what we're saying here is that you can have all the data, like you say, but if you're not calm within yourself and you're not authentic and not truthful to yourself with all that data that's there, you're not going to make that right decision. You're going to make a decision that could be harsh, it could be quick, it could be abrupt, it could be not what it meant to be. But if it's have clarity and you're calm within yourself and you're feeling that's right, that's what it should be doing, that's it. There's no one else to answer against that. It's always a tricky situation, especially in business. You're trying to make decisions sometimes that are out of your control.
Yeah.
And
most of what they decide is eventually out of their control. They put a direction forward, and then the ball starts rolling, and there are other people who start pushing the ball around, right?
Yeah.
And so that's now go ahead, Richard. I lost my thought.
No, that's fine. I think it's actually a nice. We said we would do actually a nice short conclusion to this this session today because of it's a big subject and we can go into so many different directions on this. So, I thank you both for really your contribution. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe before we go, we can we offer some tips or something?
Well, I was just going to suggest before I finalize anything you can give to the people listening in any way, yourselves, Bart, Harriet, on this, on like a conclusion or something that you could say, look into this, see this if this resonates with you. So go ahead, both of you.
You were going to say something, Bart. Go first.
Well, there are in my mind there are a few things to deal with fear, and I've done many courses in business from titled "From Fear to Trust" and from fear to clarity, because you got like a fear that not only grabs the manager or the CEO, but also it might be like state of mind in a team, where they don't trust each other and fear responses and fear standing up for expressing themselves and all that dynamic when people are communicating with each other. But I reckon there's it's not a team that's listening to this talk. So for each one who's listening, and there are two different things I think you can do. There's the coping strategies. By when you become aware of your fear, and what are you gonna do about that? It might be meditation, it might be taking a walk, it might be whatever. There are so many things out there. You can look on LinkedIn and you find 5 steps or 7 steps to deal with fear. And that's great when you are in a context that just one off context, because we cannot exclude fear, right? Fear is going to be part of our life, more or less. This only our response to fear that can make the difference in that. That's that builds the whole coping things, coping strategies, and that might be meditation, might be taking a walk, it might slowing down. In other ways, it might help to talk to a coach or to a therapist, or just talk to a friend, have a conversation with a friend, and express what you're going. That can often lift off the. Those are the coping strategies. There's the other category, in my opinion, is getting before that, falling a bit back before fear and stresses arise, basically. And to me, that is a way we can do by learning about how our system works, how we generate feelings from the inside out rather than from the circumstances falling upon us. It's like that example we just talk about being in the hospital, dying from leukemia, right? And you see, my response was different than the one next to me, and it shows you that the fear is not. When I say the fear is coming from the decision I made and what is going to happen next, or if the economy will do this or that, blah blah blah, then I'm looking outward for a source for my feeling, and since I cannot control the outcome in the way I would like to, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We never can control the outcome the way we like to. We wish we could, and we hope we can, so we can try to fight and break and push and pull, so that the outcome is gonna be stable enough for us to feel rest. But that keeps us going because we will know that we are not in control of the outcome. So the cancer couldn't give me fear. If cancer could give you fear, I would have fear of the cancer next, like the other. Just to go back to what I said, the fear is coming from the inside out rather than from the outside in, and helping to understand that will stop you from generating fear, the fear idea, by the idea that the fear is coming from the outside. So I'm gonna try to explain that with another metaphor. If I'm stuck in traffic and I'm stressed out because I'm stuck in traffic, my stress will be, and I believe my stress is coming from traffic, I will be stressed out for as long as I'm stuck in traffic. But when you can realize that it's not traffic that gets you spinning or gets you feeling stressed out, but your ideas about where you need to go and all that, then you can switch that around, and that is the stress doesn't keep repeating. But if you keep looking, the next car, then you keep yourself stressed out or in fear modus, and it's breaking that circle. And when you when you can look, instead of looking outwards, look inwards, then fear is gonna be far less of a factor than it might be now when looking outwards. So two strategies: coping when stress has already appeared in your system, and helping that wind down. But the other strategy is, in my opinion, a bit more helpful in the long run is learning about how you function in a psychological, spiritual manner.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Bart. Harriet,
Well,
anything to conclude?
what can I add after all that? There's a dog, I think here. My dog wants to make a contribution as well. We have a bit of disturbance from being in the home environment. Anyway, yes, I think on the second part, more about how you look at it, how you work with it. I think an element that can be also important is to do some work around your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And I mean by that to develop more trust in your own ability to deal with whatever may happen, whether it be success or failure, danger, losing your job, whatever, or ruining the project. But I think if you, and that is also a work of long term, but are paying attention to how you feel about yourself, your self-esteem, your value, your worth, and do some work around that, either by yourself or with friends or professionals, it doesn't really matter. But looking at that element of how do I treat myself, how do I look at myself, how do I feel about myself, I think that can also help, that the more I feel I will be able to deal with what life will throw my way, the less I have to be afraid of fear, because I will feel more confident I'll be able to deal with it, whatever arrives. And of course, that is not something that you can develop in the minute when there's a big thing coming up, but it's certainly worth taking time for, investing time in just before it gets bad, because you will be better, I was about to say armed, but armed is not the right word, you'll be better prepared to deal with it. And so it will not have the same impact on you as it might have had otherwise.
That's great. Thanks for that. Well, I like both your summaries there. Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Harriet. What I got from having a discussion here with you today was, the fact I take the analogy of the green cross code we used to have when I was young. The traffic lights, and the red was meaning for me was to stop. Was just to reflect, to stop and see what's going on. And Bart was highlighted that with slowing down, etc. And then looking, see what the circumstances, is the circumstances really relating to me, or is it something I'm creating, etc. And then we've got the amber, where it's actually looking at yourself and looking internally and seeing what is it that's created it. Is it a thought that actually doesn't actually mean anything, or is it just something that you're stressing about of a meeting that may or may not go in that direction? And then I've got the green light, which is actually just just letting it go and just saying, okay, I'm okay as it is. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I'm okay. And I think that relates to what Harriet was trying to highlight there about the self-belief. It's okay. And that's how I see it with a traffic light analogy, which it's simple, but it kind of makes people just stop and slow down for a bit, just breathing. As you say, the coping strategy is just breathing a little bit and just seeing for yourself, is it really necessary to be out of that control? Because what we're seeing, what I'm understanding here, once we have that understanding, then thoughts create another thought, which creates another thought, and it magnitudes that into such a big area. That's when we kind of say, well, we're stressed, and that fear comes in because, oh, what do I do next, etc. So that's what I got from that. So I'd like to thank you both really, really well for your time and your presence in this, and also for sharing, again, a big subject on fear, especially for in business. But hopefully the people that listen to this will get something to pick from and to resonate about, and hopefully they can join us next time and listen more about our next topics, etc. So I'd like to thank everyone, whoever you are. And again, we look forward to seeing you all go and speaking to you all again on another